It's 11 a.m. here in Seoul. I'm Seong at the Arirang News Center. We're breaking into our regular programming to bring you a live briefing from the South Korean health authorities on the coronavirus outbreak here in the nation. But first, we're going to provide you with some stories making headlines at this hour. South Korea will serve as a member of the World Health Assembly's Executive Board. It's the 7th time that the country has been appointed as a board member in the organization's roughly 70-year history. Now, South Korea has designated Vice Health Minister Kim Gang-lip to serve as a member of the Executive Board. Kim, who also acts as South Korea's Senior Policy Coordinator at the Central Disaster and Safety Countermeasure Headquarters of COVID-19, he will serve a 3-year term. The main functions are to give effect to decisions and policies and also act as an advisory panel to the Assembly. Countries taking part in WHO's annual assembly have agreed on the need for a transparent and fair access to vaccines and treatment against COVID-19, which has infected almost 5 million people globally. They also endorsed a resolution tabled by the EU to start an independent probe into the WHO's response to the pandemic. Our Kim Yo-sun reports.
The 194 member states of the World Health Organization are calling for the need for transparent, equitable, and timely access to any treatments or vaccines developed against COVID-19. During the World Health Assembly meeting on Tuesday held virtually, its members also agreed to launch an independent probe into the WHO's handling of the pandemic. The agreement came as the European Union initiated a resolution calling for a comprehensive, impartial, and independent assessment of the agency's response. It was endorsed by nearly 100 member states. Welcoming the resolution, the WHO chief highlighted the principles of transparency and accountability.
As always, WHO remains fully committed to transparency, accountability, and continuous improvement. We want accountability more than anyone.
The resolution was supported by China and the U.S., who have been at odds over the WHO following the Trump administration's threats to withdraw from the agency. On the day of the meeting, President Trump threatened to permanently halt funding for the WHO if it does not commit to improvements within 30 days. Washington, however, was criticized by the EU for weakening multilateral cooperation and coordination in the face of a global crisis. On the sidelines, the issue of enabling Taiwan to attend the conference was also a hot topic. In the run-up to the meeting, calls for Taiwan to be allowed to join, led mainly by the U.S., threatened to anger Beijing, which has blocked Taiwan from attending since 2016 under its One China policy. Kim Yo-sun, Arirang News.
High school seniors in South Korea are back to school this Wednesday, becoming the first group of students in the country to physically return to classes after months of school closures due to the COVID-19 outbreak. All students must wear face masks and apply hand sanitizer before going to school. Thermal imaging cameras will also be set up at entrances to check students' temperatures. Those that exceed 37.5 degrees Celsius will be sent home if their fevers don't subside. Should any problems arise, the government may switch back to online classes. South Korea's finance ministry has vowed to swiftly secure an almost $2.9 billion supplementary budget for job creation efforts in the public sector. Finance Minister Hong Nam-ki said Wednesday that the fund will be used to create more than 550,000 new jobs, including some 100,000 new jobs in non-contract and digital sectors. Hong also pledged around $33 billion over the coming months to support local industries hit hard by the pandemic, including the aviation and marine transport sectors. The ministry will announce detailed plans to boost consumption and investment, as well as South Korea's own version of the New Deal in early June, when it lays out its economic policy direction for the second half of 2020. Taiwan's President Tsai Ing-wen is starting her second term today, with the presidential inauguration taking place in Taipei at 9 a.m. Taiwan time less than an hour ago. The US has also congratulated Taiwan's president, giving her full support, while indirectly criticizing China. Our Kim Jae has this report.
Taiwan's first female president, Tsai Ing-wen, kicked off her second term on Wednesday with high approval from her people and from the U.S., but with mounting pressure from China. Tsai and her Democratic Progressive Party have successfully contained the spread of the COVID-19, earning much support from the Taiwanese public. A recent poll by a Taiwanese think tank showed Tsai's approval ratings reached 74.5%, the highest rating any Taiwanese president has reached so far. But she still faces a challenge from Beijing, whose One China policy doesn't see Taiwan as a sovereign nation. With Tsai's inauguration coming just days after Taiwan was excluded from the World Health Organization's annual assembly under Chinese pressure, all eyes now turn to how Beijing will respond to Tsai's inaugural address. Meanwhile, Tsai has been receiving praise and support from the U.S. In a statement on Tuesday, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo congratulated Tsai on her re-election and wished her a successful second term. At the same time, he indirectly criticized China, saying that Taiwan's democracy is an inspiration to Taiwan and also the world. He praised Taiwan's response to the COVID-19 outbreak and added that the U.S. has long considered Taiwan a reliable partner. He said the two sides have shared a vision for the region, one that includes rule of law, transparency, prosperity, and security for all. This is in line with recent remarks from the U.S. towards China. President Trump's economic advisor, Larry Kudlow, on Tuesday slammed Chinese firms for their lack of transparency and accountability, adding they do not meet the norms and regulations. He went on to warn Americans that they cannot invest confidently in Chinese companies. Kim Jae-hee, Arirang News.
U.S. Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin and Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell spent most of their Tuesday in the hot seat, being grilled by senators on the Trump administration's $2 trillion plus COVID-19 rescue package. They both defended the package, with Mnuchin warning that states need to reopen ASAP to prevent long-term damage to the American economy. Our Lee Seung-jae reports.
During a Senate Banking Committee hearing conducted Tuesday via video conference, a number of senators questioned U.S. Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin and Fed Chairman Jerome Powell on the need for the massive coronavirus relief package worth some $2.2 trillion. Powell, who in an interview with CBS's 60 Minutes on Sunday, indicated Americans need 3 to 6 more months of financial assistance, told senators that more spending could stop the recession deepening. Powell called on Congress to approve more programs to ensure economic growth, while Mnuchin said he's still working to launch the relief programs that were authorized 2 months ago. Another issue at hand was criticism the Trump administration is pressing to reopen the American economy too soon, leaving workers vulnerable to the virus. Mnuchin said while no workers should give their lives to go back to work, there could be permanent damage to the economy if it isn't reopened soon.
There is the risk of permanent damage, and as I've said before, we're conscious of the health issues, and we want to do this in a balanced and safe way.
While the unprecedented steps to shut down the U.S. economy has led to massive unemployment and other negative indicators, Mnuchin remained optimistic the economy will improve as long as Americans safely start going back to work.
Working closely with the governors, we are beginning to open the economy in a way that minimizes risk to workers and customers. We expect economic conditions to improve in the third and fourth quarter and into next year.
However, little is known about the long-term effects of the relief packages and when the individual states will finally and fully reopen. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
The CEO of Google and its parent company Alphabet says he expects to bring in the bulk of their employees back to the office by the end of the year on a rotating schedule as a way to maintain COVID-19 social distancing guidelines. Sundar Pichai said on Tuesday that by the end of the year, Google will be at 20 to 30% capacity, meaning it will be able to get 60% of its employees in once a week. Google will start by bringing 10 to 15% of its workers into the office at any time. Alphabet will prioritize employees who need to be in the office. Pichai added that he believes the company will cap office attendance at around 20 to 30% of workers at any given time. Now we're just going to cut into this Haejeong government complex where Vice Health Minister Kim Gang-lip is going to tell us the latest statistics on COVID-19.
And we also have continued infections of the community transmission amounting to 24, and we have 8 imported cases. And as of today midnight, the total number of confirmed cases stands at 11,110, and a total of 10,066 have been discharged following full recovery. We have a total of 781 people in quarantine undergoing treatment. We have no change in the death toll as of yesterday. And this morning, the KCDC held a meeting presided over by Prime Minister Chung Sek-yoon, and we touched upon the issues of the outbreaks happening around the Itaewon cluster infection, as well as the further plans for the offline schools for the students. And he also said that the offline classes for the senior students of high school who are starting to go back to school today are actually the new normal expressed through distancing in daily life. And he also stressed that we are preparing for any possibility on the way. And he said that if Korean singing rooms or academies are included in the places that the confirmed cases have visited, we need to take swift measures. And we also dealt with the measures for the plans to address the increase of the cluster infection, especially for Itaewon. And as for the Itaewon related case, we have 193 related cases so far, and we have been seeing no exponential surge in the number of confirmed cases, but there is a continued increase. To this end, we believe that we need to continue to stay vigilant until as we see continued sporadic outbreaks in Incheon as well. And in Incheon City, we have seen the cluster infection spreading to local infections in the Korean singing rooms and so forth. And we also have a separate case of 4 nurses being confirmed at the Samsung Medical Center here in Seoul, as well as 1 confirmed in Gyeonggi-do Hospital. And we are currently doing the further investigation on contacts, and the chain of transmission is underway right now. We are exerting our full efforts to have this under control. We are checking our epidemiological investigations, and when this is exerted to a certain extent, we will be briefing you with the updates during our briefing sessions. As of now, looking at the infections, we have some important implications that we would like to share. The epidemiological investigations need to be carried out further. However, looking at the analysis that we have so far, we have seen no large-scale cluster infections at hospitals, unlike we have had concerns so far. And we have confirmed that the Itaewon Club case has not expanded to the churches or other religious facilities and hospitals, and we have been minimizing such cluster infection. And however, on the other hand, we are seeing an increase in the infections continuously among clubs and singing rooms. And this also is important because we need to be fully sharing such information, and it also shows that when the areas that we lacked of sharing of information are actually more prone to fast virus spread. And our epidemiological investigation has been carried out very effectively to a certain extent in some places, and these places have effective curbing of the virus. However, when these efforts were hindered, we saw that the curbing of the virus spread was difficult to a certain extent. So we ask the members of the public to continue to remember that you are the responsible agents of quarantine. Moreover, the quarantine authorities also urge that you need to cooperate with our efforts by providing accurate information swiftly. We believe that a simple testimony of false information or delay in true information could actually lead to a large delay in our epidemiological investigations. And we will be also improving if there are any rooms for improvement. We will be designating designating the facilities as high risk depending on our level of assessment, and we will devise more detailed measures to tackle these facilities. And we will also have a big overview of these facilities going forward. And once again, we urge the members of the public to remember to always comply with the basic quarantine protocols, and as if you are in the metropolitan area, you need to be more vigilant and staying on alert. And next is about the support for Korean nationals living overseas of their return back to Korea. And the government has designated some countries where there is a high risk of COVID-19 infections, and we have been supporting their return schedules. These include Europe, Americas, and Middle East, and Africa. And there are still many new cases of COVID-19, and they have many of them also have restrictions in entry. And therefore, the movement of our Korean nationals is also very limited. And limited conditions in locally also pose a big threat to the Korean citizens living abroad, and they have a large supply or demand to come back to Korea. And we also started from returning the people from Wuhan, and we have also returned successfully about 30,000 South Korean nationals from 99 countries, and they include Wuhan, China, Iran, and so forth. And we have flew our chartered flights so that our South Korean citizens could fly back safely. And even after they arrive back in Korea, they have been self-quarantined in separate stations and facilities for 14 days. And we have been cooperating and exchanging effectively with the private and public airlines in other countries to facilitate the fast return and safe return of our citizens living abroad. And the government will also continue to coordinate with other countries so that we will provide more support to all South Koreans living abroad. And all South Koreans need to return back safely, and this is the very basic principle that we have in mind. And next is the latest monitoring on the self-quarantine. And on the 19th, as of 19th of May, we have confirmed that over 2,500 people have been newly administered as self-quarantine, and we have a total of 35,000 people who are on self-quarantine. And there have been some concerns over the breach of self-quarantine mandatory measures, and therefore we have adopted the self-quarantine application as well as the relief band, which utilize the IC technology. And for instance, as for the evasion or going outside the self-quarantine locations, we have been providing this relief band from April 27th together in cooperation with KT. And this relief band works so that this person who is on self-quarantine goes beyond the boundaries of that space, makes an alarm and reports to the health authorities. And as of 19th of May, we have had 48 people who have been wearing these relief bands, and more people have been discharged, and a total of 19 people are wearing these relief bands. And Saudi Arabia is also very much interested in our relief bands, and we believe that they will also purchase more of these relief bands, and they have requested to supply more than 100,000 of them, which amount to more than 90 billion Korean won. And we will also consult with the KOTRA to extend our exports of these relief bands going forward. And we will also export our IT technology, utilizing our quarantine, and these will be shared to the rest of the international community going forward. And with the export of these wristbands, we believe that our success could be a model for others to emulate. Moreover, as for the people who are enduring the difficulties and loneliness of self-quarantine, we would like to extend our deepest gratitude. Next, we have been appointed as the new member of the World Health Assembly's Executive Board. And the board member consists of 43 members and has a 3-year term. South Korea has been designated since its signing and joining of the WHO. We have been serving as the 7th term this year, and we will be cooperating closely with Australia, Hong Kong, and other countries to devise any plans going forward. And we will be going over the budget devising as well as policy devising as well, and we will be playing a very big role in the policy making of the WHO. And going forward, the Republic of Korea will be proactively sharing our successful expertise and experience with the rest of the international community. And as the executive board, we will be standing at the forefront of this leadership for quarantine. And next is about the blood bank in Korea. And as of May 8th, we have seen a crisis in the supply in blood banks. And this has been because the student donation has decreased by more than 30%, as we have seen a delay in the opening of the schools. And also there has been a delay in the blood donations after the Itaewon cluster outbreak. And the quarantine authorities, we have said that during the briefing on the 13th of May, we asked the public to continue to cooperate in our measures of blood donation. And as a result, yesterday, as of the last weekend, the number of individual blood donators have actually increased by 2-fold from the previous week. And as of today, we have a sufficient of blood supply for about 4 days going forward. So my deepest gratitude goes to every one of you for your help. However, we still need to have more blood in our blood bank, and they need to be able to serve about 5 days. So we continue to ask for your cooperation going forward, and the government will also promise to make a safe and effective environment for blood donation and the blood management of blood banks. And today, the seniors of high school students have been going to school. And we also have a phased returning back to school schedule for other grades. And together with these schools, we will also have swift measures of with first responders, and these students will be tested as soon as possible if there are suspicious cases. And in order to have this, we believe that the cooperation with the public is essential. We need to have our communities encourage our students going back to school, and please help us in making a safer ground for the students. And due to your help, we believe that this could be great help for the senior citizens who are preparing for their college entrance exam. Up until now, the public, the medical staff members, as well as the quarantine authorities have exerted a very full efforts of cooperation in a very organic manner, and we believe that we can further develop and overcome the outbreak successfully. And please remember that your individual's footstep can safely safeguard the society of the Republic of Korea. And please remember that you are a responsible agent of quarantine. Thank you very much.
That was a live briefing you heard from South Korean health authorities updating us on the COVID-19 situation in the country. We just heard that there were 32 additional infection cases, bringing the national total to 11,110. There were no new deaths, so that means that the death toll remains standing at 263. Well, that concludes our coverage of this morning's briefing. We'll be back in just a little while at 12 p.m. Korea time with our regular midday news. Bye for now.